Okay, hi everyone! I'm telling you, the chat is already hopping. My goodness. There were people waiting since like 45 minutes beforehand, something amazing like that. But it's always great to see everyone hanging out in the chats and chatting with each other. Hanging out in the chats, hanging out and chatting with each other. Again, if you are new here, welcome. Hi. It is Wednesday, which means it is time for another mini mayhem. I am Vee Mus'e. I will be your host for the stream today. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Pathfinder Battles Deepcuts Wave 14 preview miniatures that I have on hand for you. And on top of that, I'm actually going to start painting one of them, and that is the adult blue dragon, which you're going to see towards the end of the preview, not at the end of the stream. The stream itself today, let me just give you a heads up. I need to be sure that by, let's say, 1:30, I need to make sure I am done with Mini Mayhem because I have to regroup and prep and get ready for another stream that we're doing for HeroClix. So if you want a day full of fun streams, then, here's the place to be, whether it is on YouTube or it is on Twitch. So just ouch. Ow, I just banged my knee, that hurt. So heads up for that one. We have a very special Scott Porter interview that is happening at 3 p.m. This afternoon Eastern time. Keep that in mind. All times are Eastern in this case. Holy, whoa, the chat is just, hi everybody, hello. I'm seeing you all jump up. And yes, remember, since we are streaming both to YouTube and to Twitch, right here is the combined chat. So if you want to interact with your friends on the different channels, we'll just make sure you're taking a look at what's happening next to me on the screen here, and you can reply back and forth to each other. You may just have to, if it's drastically different chats, just make sure you put in the person's name that you're replying to if you're from YouTube talking to someone on Twitch. A little tip there. Don't forget, if you haven't yet, you're always welcome to like and or subscribe and ring that notification bell. It's always greatly appreciated. We are at like we're at 923 or 24 over on Twitch. So we're getting close to that 1K mark, which is very cool, and I'm excited about that. So if you haven't started following us there on Twitch, please and thank you, very much appreciated. And everything you're going to see here today in terms of miniatures, you can absolutely find with your FLGS, your friendly local game store. If you're not sure where to find a local game store near you, you can always go to whizkids.io/local store, plug in all your information, even down to how far you're willing to travel, and you will get a list of stores that carry WizKids products near you. Of course, I always recommend that in these times right now, you contact them ahead of time and find out what it is that they are doing. Some of them have amended store hours, some of them do it by appointment only, some of them will do, you can purchase online, pick up curbside, or they might ship for an additional fee. There's a bunch of different ways they are doing this. So please check with them first. Okay. If you don't have a store near you, then by all means, that's where you can jump into finding these online. There are a whole bunch of different places you can do this. WizKids.com, Amazon, so on and so forth. Trust me, Mini Painter, I know there's lots of places to find these minis. So you can make use of your online options if you don't have a local game store near you. Let me just see here. And questions. If you have a question for me while we're going through this, especially when I'm going into my mini painting techniques, please be sure to type in caps question and then have your question follow behind, and I will do my best to answer them for you. Also, in terms of everything you're going to see here today, the target release date is May 12th. So that is in a couple weeks on a Wednesday. So keep that in mind for all of that. And let me see here. Oh, hey, congratulations, Matthew, on your family getting your COVID vaccination shots. That is wonderful. I'm hoping YouTube doesn't, because I said that. But that is wonderful. And please just rest and take care of yourselves in the meantime. Ron Davis, I always change up my background. I was wondering if people ever noticed that. This changes every single time I do a stream. So Easter eggs maybe sometime in the future, you never know, just keep that in mind. Who's Gamora? I should know this. My brain is not pulling the Gamora in right now. Gamora is also a greeting of a friend of mine, so I think that's why my brain keeps going to gnome, but that's a different story. But welcome. I'm going to flip over to the images that I want to share with you. So this is basically your full line of what you can expect for Wave 14 for your Pathfinder Battles Deep Cuts. Okay, now remember, the backing on the packaging is basically a nod to the pricing. So when you see this blue background, that means that is the $4.99. When you see yellow, that is $8.99. When you see red, that is $14.99. And then you have your hecking chonker, who is over here. Okay, that one is $29.99, and I will give you a closer look at that Earth Elemental Lord soon. But these are everyone that you will find in this particular line. I got to tell you, it is a great mix. I am personally very excited about the hags. They look so cool. I don't have miniatures of those on hand though, but you can go and check everything out as well. Question, anything new you can tell us about the Warlock tiles? We are going to be hopefully, I am still chasing and trying to find them. Hopefully I will have the 1-inch wide tiles to share with you soon to really change up and add even more things to your builds. And let's see here. So that's pretty much the rundown of these miniatures. I have made sure that in the description that you have the name of the miniatures as well as the SKU number to make it easier for you to order these if you find one, if you see one that you really are locking onto and really like. Again, remember, I am painting the adult blue dragon today, and I'll also be painting it into next week. I'm excited about the technique I'm going to show you because this is one that I've been doing for a while and people are asking me more and more about. So hopefully you will enjoy it. Okay, thank you. See, now it clicked for me because my brain is like living in so many different realms right now. Thank you, Bureen. Bureen? How would we say that one? I hope I got that close. Thank you. Yes, Gamora, Green Girl. And I love that movie. That's the problem. It's like I'm jumping between HeroClix and D&D and Path. I have a lovely little mix of things happening in my head right now. But thank you. Thank you for clearing that up for me. Okay, so let's go to the overhead. Now, I am going to be toggling around with my camera just because the whole focus thing, we go from little minis to very big minis, and that does, of course, affect how the camera picks things up. So just keep that in mind. If I say I need to focus, I don't need to focus. Oh, usually I do need to focus. I'm kidding. But it's one of those things where I actually need to take the camera and get it to work a little bit better. And because I'm going to start off with our Halfling Clerics, female Halfling Clerics, I have a feeling I am very much going to need to focus because guess who I was playing around with last? The big guy. So let's get this to drop into, come on. They are so wee. Where's my sweet spot? You can focus, it's okay. Oh wait, I gotta fix the cameras, she says. Hold on. I'm fixing the wrong camera. Okay, let's go to the correct one, and then we will be okay. Oopsie. Joys of live technology. Camera's a little shy today because I was also adjusting the other camera. I was adjusting the one that was on me because they're both named Brio. Here we go. This will be better. Ta-da! See, it helps when you have the right settings pulled up. Okay, so here we go. These are the female cleric, halfling clerics, and oh my goodness, the details on these. I'm even like zoom in just that much more because they're such adorable wee bits. You can see, there we go. You can see they have fantastic clear plastic spell effects going on, as well as all these lovely extra details. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop it down to just one so you can see them individually. So here is the first one with the hood pulled up. You even have like some motion happening because the hair is being blown up a little bit. See the hair action there? Spell is being cast, sword drawn. Look at all that stuff hanging from the hip, from the satchel. Hello, Morphinius. This is really one drop of paint and they're done. Well, I mean, you know, a few drops. But really, there's just so much going on here, even for such a wee little mini. I think it's fantastic when the smaller ones have that much more detail. So that's one of the ones, and these come in a 2-pack. Okay, don't forget. Hello, PL Stowe. Don't forget, these are 2-pack. These are the $4.99. And here is the second one. This time we have a shield out. You know, pretty standard looking shield. Rivet details around the edges. Again, another hood cloak. But look at all the fun little details here in the front of the dress. Lots of texture happening here, and you have this great little flame spell in the open palm. But that is the second miniature from the female cleric, female halfling cleric. And now we're going to go to the male elf sorcerer. Again, set of 2. Say hello. to these ones. Look at the spell effect. This one, I'm like, oh, that's spell effect. Again, these are so much fun to start seeing with this plastic. I am loving this treatment. And if you're not familiar with this, I won't be doing it with the blue dragon simply because it doesn't have this. But if you're worried about how to get this clear plastic to stay transparent but still get color onto it, inks and washes and stains will be your friend. I would just want to make sure I mention that ahead of time. So these are the two you will get in the one package, $4.99 again. This is the one people are going whoa over, so guess who we're going to take a look at first. I mean, look at all the details here. Hello, Smokebeard! Hello, Archery Geek. Oh, thank you so much. I very much appreciate that comment. But, I mean, there's just, you have this full, I mean, it even gets taller than the mini. From base, literally from the base. And again, these all come with the black bases. Don't forget the black discs. Okay, black discs for all of these. Yoink. But the spell effect is taller than the miniature itself. But look at the miniature. Like, it's got the flapping cape. Not a cake. Flapping cake. We have mimic issues. Look at the collar. The pop collar. This is one of those. I'm really pleased with the pose as well. I was just about to say that, Morphinius. The stance of the sculpture is just excellent. It's almost got like this confident, come at me, bro, if you will. So that's one of the figures for the male elf sorcerer. Here is the other one. Not quite as bombastic with the spell. There is a spell happening in hand. This one's a little bit more subtle in presentation, a little less look at me, if you will, but it's also kind of got like that champion pose thing happen there. But again, you have the buckle details, the folds in the fabric, which are lovely, the flaps of the boots. There's even details with the satchel, a little pouch. See all of this? Really. It's another fun one. And I like it's in the mid casting of it. So those are some of the player character style miniatures you'll get from that line. Then let me hop over to the dragon itself. Now the dragon, I have already put its base color of black on. I'll explain why when I get into painting the dragon, but I do want you to see its lines. And this is where I need to play with the focus, because now we're getting bigger. But here is the blue dragon. And let's pull the other two out for scale. So here it is with the sorcerer. And then we have it with the halfling. So it's a good size mini. And the pose is just so much fun. And I love the curvatures happening. Like, I'm very excited to paint this particular mini. It will come primed in the white. These are all primed ahead of time. I've put a base color of black on. Again, I'm going to explain this more as we get into it, because there's a technique I wanted to share with everyone that a lot of people have been asking me personally on my socials about how I've been painting some minis lately. And I thought the technique I use lately, especially since some of you saw the Cloud Giant from last time, I'm going to use that technique that I used on this one. I thought that'd be something fun to share with you all. So this is the blue dragon. It really is beautiful. I mean, even if you wanted to take this and get it painted up and kind of give it a metallic finish, this could be like a beautiful display piece just from the lines and this movement in the sculpt. It really is, with all the S-curves and everything happening. It's so darn pretty. It's just, I gotta tell you, I have a fondness for many of the Pathfinder dragons because of how they look. The black dragon that came out with the Lost Omens, City of Lost Omens, that was a beautiful one. Same thing for the red dragon too. So that's the adult blue. That one's the $14.99. And finally, the big guy. Okay, I have one in a box. So this one comes in a box. Keep that in mind when you go to look for this one. You're looking for an orange box, not the typical hanging blisters. This fellow is $29.99. But where's your front, honey? Here's the front. Like, where's your face? This one doesn't have a face. Here's the front. So once again, I'm going to adjust focus slightly because he's so big. So this heckin' chonker is quite sizable. I mean, first of all, it's eating up all of my hand and a portion of my wrist. Let me bring out for scale. So that's a medium. Hello. And now we're going to bring out a small with a halfling. And hello. So it's a good size mini. It literally is, we'll do the, you know, it's about the length of my face. Not even kidding. So $29.99. You have these excellent, pardon me, these excellent stone details happening. This is the Earth Elemental Lord. Vee's head to scale. There's so many times I can use myself as reference to scale now. That's where it's a little bit interesting. But you can see there's this great stony pockmark texture happening. You also have crystals jutting out at various points. So there's a lot of fun that you can have with this, painting out the crystals different colors, giving them those fun little color shifting things. Hello, Dragon MK123. And if you jump in and you say hi to me and I miss it, my apologies. I appreciate everyone who is hanging out today. I really very much do. And then you see you have above the head this massive rock in hand. Motion of about to toss a stone out to someone. And here's the back of it. Again, it's just got this great, there's like little gritty detail every so often in certain areas. The crystals themselves, which, and this is the other thing I like, the crystals actually have a very smooth, sharp edge finish to them. Whereas the stone area, the rock area, that has a very weathered texture to it. So it's a lovely offset of the two. But this is one, I don't know when I'm going to have a chance to paint this big fellow, but I am looking forward to painting, especially so I can play off the dark tones of the stone into the crystal look and get those two things going. So those are the Pathfinder Battles deep cut minis that I have to show with you. I know the last one is not exactly mini, definitely a very good size creature. Again, that's the Earth Elemental Lord, which comes in its own box behind them right back there. Keep an eye for that. Really quick, I'm also going to show you a couple of the WizKids deep cuts just because I have them on hand too. If you're looking for one, there's going to be a saber tooth that will be coming out, a saber tooth tiger. So this is just the straight WizKids deep cuts. So there's this one. Fantastic texture to the fur, the long tusks. You can almost hear this one. Pardon me, I need a cough. We're getting into allergy season. And then you're also going to have the option of getting a couple of dolphins with water effects, which I think is lots of fun. And this comes in a package together. So you can see, this one looks a little disturbing, I know, but you have a full dolphin, which can then be placed on this water chute. And I like the fact they're separate, so you can paint this and get the details going. Let me fix the focus again. You can get the details going on the water. And you can also do the details on the mini and then put the two together. See, isn't that great? And then you have the upper dolphin, like so. So it looks like it's it's popping out of its water disc, which again is separate from it, but you can paint them and then put the two together and then literally just go in and glue one to the other. So that puts it more into context. See right there. So those are a couple of others that you'll see with the just the plain straight up WizKids deep cuts. Okay then, so let me see here. Question, how are people planning to paint the Pathfinder Battles Dryad who has a rope outfit, but I don't see how I can paint it without it bleeding onto the skin? Oh, that's an interesting question, Calcius. Honestly, I haven't sat down to... I need a sip of water, and this is fizzy water. Give me a second. I think I have to sit and like actually analyze that one. But if anyone else would like to weigh in as to how they plan to go and paint that particular one, by all means, go for it. Off the top of my head, I think I would actually paint the rope first, go in, pull off any bits that may have gotten onto the body, and then go in and paint the body is probably how I would approach it, quite frankly. And to pull off, all you really need is just to very carefully take a paintbrush with rubbing alcohol, and you can just very finely remove any bits of paints that may have strayed into a different spot. That's probably how I would go about painting that particular model, to be honest. Okay, so back over to the dragon, because I do want to get going on this dragon, and I want us to have a good chunk of time with it, and we're already getting close to, 12:30 mark. And again, I have to stop at 1:30 because we have that other stream with Scott Porter later. But as you can see, I have above my head the rendered version of the blue dragon. And actually, can I play with you? I can. Let me just make the dragon a little bit bigger. I'm going to hide my face for a second here. but this gives you a sense of what it looks like in its render form and the colors I'm going to be aiming for. It's this beautiful turquoise blue with an ivory tone to its stomach, and I'm going to play off of that. However, I'm not going to go right in and paint this blue, as you can see. This is straight up black. It's actually an airbrush primer that I used on this one to get a base color on here, because what I'm going to use is what I call my sketchbook style painting with a twist. Now, it's a similar approach to OSL, Object Source Lighting, which if you haven't seen that before, that's where people play around and they'll have things that looks like a spell is glowing or a lantern is glowing on a miniature. So it's a similar technique. It's a way of playing with light. This technique that I'm doing today is actually based off of what I learned with oil painting chiaroscuro, which basically in Italian, if you break it up, chiaro means light, scuro means dark. So I'm playing off the lights and the dark. So what I do is I will take various tones for a full sketchbook miniature. And if you're not sure, if you haven't seen me do this before, go check out my socials and you'll see, especially I think Instagram, I have some examples of that. But basically, by the time I'm done with the miniature, it looks like an illustration, all right, because it's all black and white, I say, but it looks like an illustration that you would see from old adventure books and things like that. It's something I like to do, especially with really creepy and detailed monsters, because I find it makes their details pop up all the more, as opposed to getting distracted by the color. I like to leave it to the black and white tones. But to do it, I go through a series of grays after starting off with a black base. And it's all a bunch of dry brushing that goes into it. So this is actually, it's similar to zenithal, but it is not the same thing. I also want to make sure that's clarified, because that's more white-black. This is actually going even more into it. It's closer related to chiaroscuro, which is the oil painting technique that I just mentioned. So I build up on all these different variations of light and dark, and then by the time you're done, you end up with highly detailed miniature. So I really do like using it on bigger monsters and everything. But here's the cool thing, and this is what happened with the Cloud Giant. It was intentional. When you do that, you can also then go in with washes and inks and use those on top of it, and it really makes everything pop. So I very much like to use it on bigger pieces when I have time as a factor. I really want to make those details pop, or I just want to have some fun and play around with it. All the waves should be going out. All the waves should be going out about this on May 12th. Okay, not varied sections, all on the 12th of May at this time. That's what I saw last time. So that is the plan here. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually scale it back a little bit instead of going into all of the different layers of grays that I tend to like to do. I'm going to amend it slightly. So it's not going to be the full sketchbook style, because I'm going to play around with this, and I'm actually going to add in just touches of colors here and there, because I really do want these colors to have a fun base to go around with them. Now, if you are new to miniature painting, there is a technique called dry brushing, and it is something that is extremely helpful, especially when you're just starting out, to draw out details on a miniature. So if you're not familiar with dry brushing, this is a great one to get an idea of how to go about doing it. Again, sip of water so don't start choking. So what I'm going to do is I'm using Vallejo colors on all of this. If you don't have Vallejo colors, that's perfectly okay. You can use whatever colors you have at home. I'm actually going to be starting off with a darker gray, move to a mid-tone gray, and then go up to lighter colors is how it's going to work. And you're going to see this all play out. And I'll give you the colors as I go along. So right now I'm going to start off with dark sea gray. Okay, this is from Vallejo. Again, if you're not using Vallejo, that's okay. You don't have to. If you have other paints at home, perfectly okay. Perfectly all right. Yes, I'm going to paint live today. And speaking painting live, as I'm getting myself pulled together, I am very excited. Hold on. I'm excited to announce that we were talking about the paint night kit. We are actually going to start hosting live streams for those. So if you want to join along with me and paint along with me, as well as with Greg and Shelly from D&D, please by all means come and join us May 7th. Okay, that is a thing that is going to be happening. We're going to start announcing details as soon as we have more to go, but I wanted to give you all a heads up about that, so you're kind of getting like a little quick little heads up about this. So May 7th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, we will be doing a live stream for the Red Slad Paint Night Kit. If you want to come and paint with me, Greg and Shelly, then please, by all means, come and join us. Just keep in mind you have to get these kits from your FLGS. You have to register with them and they will get the kit to you. So keep that in your back pocket. That is a Friday afternoon/evening. So something fun to do. And yeah, I just want to make sure I mentioned that before I forgot. It should be a lot of fun, and it's something that we are looking to do, hopefully monthly, have a live stream for you. And yes, there will be other guest painters. So this is sort of the kickoff live stream, if you will. And we would love to have you join us. We're going to be doing fun things like sharing progress photos and everything like that, and taking a look at what everyone's doing, things along those lines. I have not heard anything about that yet, Dragon MK123, but thank you for checking. Okay, so basically what I've done is I have loaded this dark I don't know why this is happening, this dark sea gray onto my brush, and I've actually pulled a majority of it off onto my paper towel until I start seeing the texture in the paper towel. The other thing you can do is use your wrist, but I'm trying to be very good today since I have another stream. I don't want my hands all covered with paint in the other stream. So now what I'm going to do, that I have this brush somewhat loaded, not loaded, somewhat coated, that's probably a better term, with the dark sea gray, I'm going to actually take my brush and start pulling it against the textures in the dragon to start bringing out these details of the scales. And actually, I think this is where I'm going to need to play around with my light a little bit, simply because when I go to share the white primed miniatures, oh, the flare out is real. So let me adjust the camera just a touch here. Not too much. Just a little bit brighter for you so you can see. So you can start seeing here how the scales are starting to pop out now. It's not as drastic of a difference with this first dark layer, and I don't want it to be super drastic. This is where it is different from the zenithal. It is not as drastic, and I don't want it to be. I want to build up the difference gradually. I want to give it a subtle nudge every single time I go around and do this. So basically, I'm going to be taking this dark sea gray and going all across the dragon figure, every nook and cranny, and it helps to move the figure around, get into different angles, and shift it as you go. Again, you don't need the brush fully loaded. You want it to be subtle. And it always helps to draw against the texture. So I'm just going to go through and do this with the full body. In fact, today, everything is going to be the same color for the most part, for the first two layers at least, and then going through with colors later on, and you'll see that come out. Oh, that's popping it out more. So you can see how that starts lifting, pardon me, lifting the colors, or the, not the colors, lifting the light and dark away from each other. So I'm just going to keep going through here. And if you really want areas to stay darker, that's where you sort of keep the brush from going too far into it. Like you just kind of take a couple sweeps across, but leave it at that. So you'll see here, because I want to keep this bit of the wing a little bit darker when the time comes, I'm actually going to focus more on letting the brush float on the upper parts and not so much focusing down in the recessed area. It'll help play off the shadows. So this is really how I do this. So if I were doing this straight up as my sketchbook style, and I'll make sure next week that I have a mini of the sketchbook style that I've done. I think I have one in a WizKids setup. I think I did the zombie miniature in the sketchbook. I did the zombie miniature and the zombie beholder in sketchbook. So I'll grab that one for next week just to quickly show you. But what I would do with this for sketchbook, I actually go through, usually it's about 5 or 6 different grays, and they all build up to a lighter tone before hitting it once around with white, pure white. But in this case, I actually have a game plan in terms of how many colors I'm going to do. So I'm going to do the dark sea gray around, then I'm going to do the medium sea gray around, and then I'm actually going to use pastel paints in different portions of the body. Putting the chiaro in the scuro, exactly. But it really is, it's a fun thing to do. And it's also, when you start playing around with the inks and washes later, next week, oh my gosh, I really get a kick out of doing that. It absolutely transforms the miniature. It's also really helpful for when you have a miniature like this with lots of nooks and crannies. and you're nervous about getting all those extra details, but you're not quite sure how to get there if you're a beginning painter, this is a great technique to be able to achieve high details without worrying about how am I going to hit every single little bit. Let me take a genuine drink of water. Pardon. The flowers are starting to come out and they're beautiful. And this is a quick way to paint a mini too. The cloud, I was going to say cloud dragon. The cloud dragon giant, no. The cloud giant that I showed, I did it again. The cloud giant that I showed you the other week, that took me probably 8 hours to paint because of the technique. But I absolutely am so pleased with how that came out. So I'm basically just doing the same thing in a tight space. I am working my brush in very lightly. Always, always work against the texture, okay? So don't pull down with the scales, pull up against the scales, because that'll really make those edges pop out more. I'm not gonna pull my brush down in this direction with the wings because you can see the texture of the wings, it would be going into the nooks and crannies. I wanna pull it across so that those nooks and crannies don't get the same paint. So that's why it's always important to be aware of the texture as you are working the brush across. And this is the phase where you're not going to see as drastic results. You do start seeing a difference, but it's honestly the next layer that really, like you can see here, there's some difference already, but it's that next layer. And I'll make a point of showing you the difference between the wings. It's always helpful to see in the wings. And it's really quick. And I always use bigger, I actually use much larger brushes for this one. I don't use the small mini brushes. I use crafting brushes because I like the way they do a broader sweep, because I don't want to have little fine-tune brush marks happening. A larger brush is actually a heck of a lot easier to do. Also why it helps this go so quickly, because you're covering a broader portion of it. But now you can see more of the texture popping out. Even though it's just a light, or not a light, a subtle shift from the dark black into the dark gray, dark sea gray. I am painting this miniature looking at the monitor and not at the mini. But I want to make sure I'm getting this in frame for you to see that change happening. Again, pulling the brush across, getting all those lovely details to pop out. I'm gonna work on, I usually tend to work on getting the wings, and then I'll get the body, then the tail and the head. And we'll go from there. So, that'll be the attack plan. But you can see how, look at all of these lovely bits of texture. You have the smaller scales, you have these wider bits of plate, almost plate-like scales on the legs, and then you have the leathery texture of the wings, the musculature that's popping through. There's just so many amazing little touches going on with this particular, this is why I wanted to paint this one, because of all the great textures. I knew it'd be a really good candidate for this particular technique. I'm not kidding. There are times I will just do this and I get to a point I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing anything more. It's just gonna be a grayscale black and white type of situation. And always move the mini around. Different angles help you get into where you need to be. You can jump down to a smaller brush if it's getting tight. I will say that. Don't feel like you have to stick to a very large brush. If you find it's easier to use a smaller brush to get into tighter places, then yeah, by all means, shift down. It's just personally, I find with the larger brush, it keeps the bristles floating above the textures a lot better. I'm gonna probably have to pull this close to me in a second just to get into a couple of awkward angles. So bear with me when that time comes. But let me get under here in the hands. Definitely want to get these. The funny thing is it's almost like the rattier the brush, the better. Because I find those bristles will float more. But this gives you an idea starting right there. See, look at all of that. This almost has like an old statue feel to it, you know? Get 2 of them. You have to answer a riddle, right? All right, let me move over to the tail now. And I always use a paper plate for my palettes. That's just my painting preference. If you ever have a question about what I prefer or what I use, I'm happy to answer that. Keep in mind, I am of the school of thought. Just because it works for me doesn't mean that you have to do it as well. Like wet palettes, I'm not a fan of wet palettes. I can't bring myself, I have tried many, many times in the past. I can't get into the habit of using them, quite frankly, or it's just not my cup of tea. I don't know what it is about them. And I've tried a few. I've tried making my own. I have tried having a few that were sent to me. It just doesn't click with me. Personally, I just prefer the paper plate. And it might just be because lifestyle, it's quick and easy and good to go. It's the upkeep of having to clean it and like I think that for me is more my hang up with the wet palettes. Doesn't mean they don't work. I know a lot of other painters who absolutely love their wet palettes and rave about them, and I think it's fantastic. Whenever you find a tool or a technique that works for you, I am happy about that fact. It may not be my cup of tea, but I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, you do that? No. Because quite frankly, if you have joy and if you are eager and you are excited, I am not going to be the one to be like, oh, because that's not cool. No. The whole thing about mini painting is it's for you. Literally. Unless like you're donating it like I do with my stuff. Unless you're doing something like that. But, you know, just enjoy it. Enjoy the process. Learn from everything you do. Don't get caught up in I should be doing it this way. Because quite frankly, a lot of what I do with minis are what other people say you shouldn't. But it's fun. It's fun to experiment and see what you can come up with and do. I mean, I don't thin my paints when I do this personal technique because I don't really see the point in it. I prefer the paints to be slightly thicker, to be honest, because then I know how the coating's going to work. It tends to not run in if you've by accident overloaded. Here we go. Let's do a little quick spin shot. So this is, it's pretty much mostly covered. I still have to get the upper portion. But this is with that dark sea gray. Okay. So you can see it's definitely taking some shape. You sort of have to be patient with it with that first go around. And that's the one thing I will always say with people who are just starting to try this out. Get through the first couple layers. Because it's not going to be, oh wow, look at that, right from the word go. But I want the subtlety of building the tones up on each other. I don't want that stark contrast of take the black and then just do white. That's not the one I'm going for. I'm going for the nuanced, gradual shadow build, which is why I call them shadow layers. This is essentially what they are. They're shadow layers. Okay, get to the portion that we need to get to. Let's get to the noggin. Oh, I love, look at this. The lines on this is just stunning. Oh, it's stunning. It's stunning, I tell you. Now, I will say, it gets very deep back here in the frills. So just be aware of that if you're going to paint this traditionally. Make sure you get your brushes in there. Buy 2 of these. Make one statue like that, and then have another set you can have a dragon break out of petrification. Ooh. Oh, I like that idea. Again, I'm pulling down because of the texture of the horns. That's fun. Yes, buy 2. One is a statue and one is painted blue. Ooh, that's a fun idea. That would make for a fascinating encounter, if not impetus for a story. The more experienced ones break the rules. Even for beginners, though, yes, rules definitely help. I honestly, there's a meme out there. They're more like guidelines. I don't want to say rules because then people feel like they have to accommodate them and stick to them when that's really not the case. The guidelines help you grow more comfortable with paints and paintbrushes and applying it to the miniatures. Absolutely. But you're not beholden to stick to them at all times and stay with them if you've changed your mind on how you want to do an approach or a technique. That is absolutely the case. Hold on. I'm going to pull this slightly closer because I'm stooping over my table. Posture is important, folks, so pardon me, I just realized I am leaning over way more than I need to. Oh, look at that. She can sit up and be comfortable. Golden rule, have fun. Absolutely. Other golden rule. When someone shares their minis and they are new, please encourage them. It may be, yes, it may be something where it's the first one they've ever done. Instead of being like, well, you should have, could have, why didn't you? Find something good that they got. I like to take that approach. You did a really great job with this. I like that a lot. And then you can always say, I always like doing, when you want to put your suggestion in, so always phrase like, I always like doing this with my own minis. And then you can give them that little tip of a trick, technique, if you want to. But please, with new miniature painters, encourage. Because it takes so long for people to jump into the miniature painting pool. Good Lord. Let me see here. Just flip something here. There we go. So this is now everything with the dark sea gray, which is basically just a dark gray. All right. And I even got the base as well. You can see. And worked in as best I could where I could get. All those lovely nooks and crannies. So there's that. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to shift over. Let me just quickly rinse my brush. I'm going to shift up to the medium sea gray. Shocker, which is a medium gray. I find that the sea grays from Vallejo are more neutral in tone for grays, which means they don't shift more of a warm or they don't shift more of a blue or a cool tone. Brush me up, senpai. Okay, so luckily when it comes time to rinsing your brush, you don't have to be too thorough if you're just keeping with these grays, but you do make sure, make sure, I'm speaking like Mother Rihanna, make sure that you dry your brush well, okay? A very water-wet brush for dry brushing doesn't work too well. It's not so great, my dears. So definitely I will take my brush, and I'm horrid on my brushes. Keep that in mind. I am rough on my brushes. That's why I tend to go for the cheaper brushes, just because I know by nature how I am as a painter. So now it's a nice dry again. Can tell by brushing across my hand I don't have any moisture left behind, which is thumbs up. That's what you want. So now I'm going to move to sea gray, which is the no, that's dark. I want medium. Here we go. She can be taught. Medium sea gray. Oh God, and we're back. Let's keep it tame here, folks. Let's keep it tame there. Okay, so now I'm gonna go in. Same idea. Get the brush coated with some of that paint. Pull off some of the color onto a paper towel nearby. Or your wrist, depending. I'm kidding about the wrist. Although I do find if you're just learning how to dry brush, and I wish I could show you today, but again, if you're learning how to dry brush, your wrist area is fantastic because it has so many different textures and lines in it. If you're ever unsure if your brush has the right amount of paint, you can, I'll just do it really quickly. You can quickly and just brush it across your skin. If you notice that everything gets filled in, that means you have too much paint on your brush, is what it boils down to. Don't apply it to the mini yet. So now I'm going to go through, same thing, pulling up and across. And just start working this around the mini again. But in this case, I'm actually even lightening my touch a little bit, if that makes sense. I'm not putting as much pressure onto the brush when it contacts the mini. because I want to keep it to, again, to the higher points. But now you can see even more of these details are starting to pop. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to work the wings first, wings and shoulders, and then take it around the body, the tail, and then go up to the head. It's going to be my attack plan. So let me get this wing and I'll stop and show you the difference. But I definitely have fun doing this one. This is also really good if like you're watching a movie. So here it is with the second layer of gray tone on there. Let me flip to the other side. And here it is with just the first layer. So you can see there's more shadows coming into play. Yes, same direction. You always want to pull against the grain. Direction is going to change when we get to that last layer. I do change direction intentionally. For basically it's like white, because then it gives it a neat little highlight effect. But for right now, it's the same, working against the grain, getting in where you can, still using that larger brush. How often do I go with edge highlighting? Rarely. That's more of a time factor on my part. You mean by going in with like a fine point brush and actually painting in the highlights? I rarely will do that personally. My painting style tends to fall into a mix of sketches and watercolor influences. So I actually like having details that the dry brushing brings out more rather than going in with hard edging. Like if it's for something very metallic, then yeah, I'll go in. Sometimes with swords and axes, I will go in and I will do edge highlighting. But I tend to go more dry brush, personally, as a painter. That's been my preference. Okay, once again, it gets really tight in here, so just hit with it where you can, what you can. How are we doing on time? 2:47, 12:47. Okay, we're doing fine. We're moving along here. I will have to put more paint out though in a little bit. Let's see. Question: what is the best brand of paper plates? Fries minis. Whatever you have on hand, that is the best brand. No, I will say, I take that back. Honestly, if you try and go for like the dollar store technique, not dollar store, reading and answering at the same time. If you go for like those dollar store plates, like the really cheap paper plates, those I don't recommend because those sop up the paint like no tomorrow. I think right now what I'm using is a Dixie. Yeah, it's Dixie. You want the kind of paper plates that have a coating on it so that it doesn't do the absorption thing that cheaper plates can do. So that is, you know, if you do want a paper plate as your palette, do keep that in mind. You don't want those cheap plates that are just truly paper that'll sop up moisture fast on you. You want like the wax coated style. Because that will make a difference in terms of how much paint you're going through and how quickly your paint is going to dry on the plate. And for those of you just joining, I am doing various layers of gray at the moment. Don't use... Oh no, Drew. I know what you're talking about too. My mom for parties would get like thematic plates and oh, you were not allowed to touch those. Oh, oops, let's see. Oh, it's kind of like a blend between the two, more Phineas, yeah. I will sort of second nature do that, I suppose. I like the different recommendations for on-the-fly palettes. Ceramic tile could definitely work, just be careful. Don't drop it. The fun thing is if you have like those little artist plastic ones and you let the paint dry, Not that I've done this myself. Not that I've ever done this myself. I've totally done this myself in the past. When the paint dries, you can actually peel the paint out because of the plastic and the acrylic. And then you get these fun little, strips of paint. Toss it in the freezer and have a couple hours to play. Interesting. Interesting. Now that's a technique I have not heard of before. Huh. Cool. Thank you for sharing that little bit with us regarding using ceramic tiles. All right, so I've got the wings. Winging it. Wing 1. Wing 2. I'm going to work on the body. Work the body. I don't know why I went there. Forgive. Oh, the texture is just... Look at that. All those beautiful scales. No, Brandon. No word yet. I will let you know. I'm going to stop in a second and add some more paint to my palette. My plate, I should say. Ooh, don't throw up the dragon. You could also, if you wanted to, put this onto a base to hold it, so you're not actually handling the mini. I have done this long enough now where it's sort of second nature. I know where I can prop it on my hand and it's dry enough to be handled. But if you're just starting out, you can always put this on like a pill bottle or a mini holder or something like that. I just find for the bigger sculpts, I tend to just hold them. Again, personal preference. But a pill bottle filled with some sand and blue tack on its lid will go a very long way in your mini painting arsenal of supplies. Ooh, yes, thesis work will definitely take up your time. I hope for your sake. There you go, finish the thesis, paint a mini. And then share it, because I'd love to see what you painted post thesis. Be careful with the freezer and plastic and how soon you handle the plastic, because it could snap. And is the one thing I would be reticent with, because sometimes plastic can become extremely brittle after being in the freezer. Speaking from, like, like if you take a really cheap container and you put it in the freezer, sometimes just like pulling the lid off, it'll shatter. Like the carry-out containers. Don't do well in the freezer. Okay. I think I still need to get you. Yep. Oh, I am just so here. Look at this. These textures are beautiful. See, now I'm getting excited for next week when I can start adding the colors in. I'm just going to do a quick sweep of the base while I'm here. Because that's just going to be so much fun seeing it, adding colors in. Using the inks and the washes instead. Ooh, hold on there. Oh. Kind of a different take on when you go in with a wash. Now it is tight quarters in here between the feet and the tail, so just, just be careful, just a heads up in that respect. Get the bulging of the tail. Did I get in there? Yeah. This is the fun part. Did I paint you yet? Again, let me get the base while I am here. See more of those edges pop out. All right, thank you so much. Which mini would I recommend to a first-time painter? That's a good question. Here's the thing. You want to make sure that the mini is one that appeals to the person who's going to be painting it. You don't want to give a person a mini that they're kind of like, well, I don't really like this character. I'm not going to want to keep looking at it. So you can go from there. I recommend, honestly, starting with a larger mini. Jumping right into a player character miniature can be daunting. a little because of the size in and of itself. So starting with a monster is usually a great approach for beginner miniature painters. I mean, the Beholder's always fun because they're so classic for people. You can also do dragons are great. You know, the young adults, the adult dragons type of situation. You don't necessarily have to go that big. Like you could do wormlings even. Where I've done a few painting classes with wormlings and people have had a grand time with those. So that would be something I would keep into consideration. So to answer your question, Fry's Minis, I would have it where keep it a larger miniature, so think creature or monster, and then work it into what the person would also like to paint, what they kind of go, ooh, that's neat. That'll help. You want them to have that sense of connection to the mini, not just, I guess I'll paint it. You want them excited as much about the form and the figure as the painting process. Does that make sense? Yeah, I did, what was it, PAX 19? PAX Unplugged 19. I did the Blue Dragon Wormling. Oh my goodness, that was a fun one. People had so much fun painting their little wormling dragons, and then just comparing them with each other. But it was a great mini for the session. They got to learn how to bring out texture with dry brushing, figure out how to get the paint on there. Where should your FLGS? Come on! I open up every stream with that. Always the local game store first. And if not your local game store, then you go online. That was an easy one. Next question. Go Hill Giant. They always come out. Shannon! You don't need to throw softballs. I'm good. Oh my God, Shannon. Yes, and I did the tutorial for that one too. Thank you, Beelstow. Okay, so basically I'm just going around and I'm hitting a few more points now that I've gotten every little bit hit. But here you can see it shifts even more. Keep your ear out more towards later fall. Okay? Later fall, winter time. Hopefully we'll have more news on those. I can only share information that I have that is free and available to share with you. Simple as that. And I don't have that information to share with you now. Trust me, I'm as excited for those as you are, but I can't say anything quite yet. In terms of updates or anything, quite frankly. So, if anything happens earlier, cool, but for now, sit tight. Okay, so I have, basically we're looking at, whoops, because I kicked my table. I have 3 different layers on here. We have the black, we have a dark gray, and now we have a mid-tone gray. So you can see all these details are really starting to come to form. This is the adult blue dragon from the Pathfinder Battles Deepcuts Wave 14 that will be coming out May 12th. Okay, Brandon? I thought it'd be fun to show the mini, but also paint the mini. This is also why I like to spin this in front of the camera a little bit, just because I noticed that little bit I wanted to have a touch more in that section right there. So here we go. That's with the 3 colors. And you can see everything's really popping. And you could, if you wanted to at this point, go with a straight up light gray and then go with white. But when you go with the white, you just pull everything. Instead of pulling the brush across, I actually will take the white and I go on a diagonal from top to bottom just to bring out the highlights that much more. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a little fun with this now. Since I am going to go back in with inks and stains, I'm going to drift from my grays. I know, shocker, what is she doing? And I'm actually going to work, well, it's a gray, but it's got a tone to it, okay? So this is a pale gray blue. So remember how I said that the sea grays are more of a neutral gray? They hold towards that mid-tone area. They don't shift too much of a brown or too much of a blue. This one definitely takes on a bluish tint, which I want. So what I'm going to be doing is taking the pale gray blue and using it on the body of the dragon. But then for the torso, what I will do is I'm going to go in for the torso area and I am going to use the dark gray sand, okay, as a dry brush, because that's going to shift the colors a little bit there for me. Yes, wolf gray is another one that tends to stray slightly into the more cool tone grays. This one has far more of a blue tinge to it though than wolf gray. Yeah, this chat is fantastic. I love how supportive and informative everyone can be. She's making us jelly because she can paint it. Yes, you have to wait 2 more Is it 2 more? Well, okay, it's more than 2 weeks, but you know it's out there. You know you can call your FLGS ahead of time and tell them, hey, I saw Vee painting the adult blue dragon for Pathfinder Battles and I'm keen on it. Can I place my order ahead of time? Just saying. Just saying. Oh, I do need to rinse my brush. Let me rinse my brush before I forget again. No, I'm kidding. This way I'm going to rinse it a little bit more because I don't want that darker gray to stray too much into the blue. That would not be good. And how are we doing on time? Oh, good. We still have a half hour. Again, I am going to need to rinse the demons. I'm going to need to rinse the demons. No. I am going to need to end this at 1:30 so I can prep. And you can if you want to come back, come on back. There's another fun stream happening at 3 p.m. Little fun chat with Scott Porter for HeroClix. It's actually for a really good cause. So if you want to come over, genuinely, please come over and hang out with us and hear what he has to say. By all means. Vee made me pre-order. Vee made me buy it. Vee made me paint it. Vee made me everything. Jeez Louise. I don't make you. I just, I let you know it's out there. So I'm going to go in for the pale gray blue. Same as before. And the nice thing is because I've been chatting with you all, it gives enough time for, you do want the layers to have a little bit of time to dry because you don't want these completely blending into each other. Same thing, I'm going to work across the body. And right now you can see I'm being a little bit more careful here. I'm not sweeping through here. I'm trying to nudge up against basically the belly scales is what we're going to call them. And you can tell that the belly scales because they go in more of a plate-like look. Okay, so I'm going to nudge my brush up against this area, but I'm not going to cross over into this area as much as possible. If you have some crossover, it's still going to be okay. Don't get worried about that. But I am making an effort in this area to keep the pale gray blue only where I want the blue tones to be. You follow me on that one? Oh, but this is such a pretty blue. Last night it was like a blue-gray. But now this is giving me just a touch, just a tone, just a tint of a cooler blue, which I definitely want. But again, I'm still keeping it dry brush. I'm not going in to paint this in full. So I'm just going to work that around like before. And now you can see it's really starting to pop things like the edges here as we want it to. So I'm going to take this and go around everywhere but basically the belly and the throat, wherever that goldeny tone is going to be. So I'm going to change it up slightly and just very carefully, very carefully, just lightly dance the edge of my brush along here. And again, if you get a little bit over, that is still going to be okay. It is not the end of the world because it's where we get to our inks and our stains. That's where it gets to be a little bit more concerning. You can see this bluish color coming out a little bit. Nothing drastic. Gives you an idea now. See, just a touch of the blue. Like a touch of gray. Let's see here. Oh, that's fun. The Shadow Mastiff. Yeah. I'm telling you, there's some really fun minis that are coming out soon. I'm excited for all of them. So basically this one I can go off and running because this area is all those blue tones I want to keep going. Carefully work between here. Up the back. See, just tuck it in there. Hello, Band of Badgers. How are you today? Who is behind the Band of Badgers account right now? To whom am I speaking? When does this go up on auction? Never. This mine. I don't give up my dragons easily. You will be, if you see me painting a dragon mini and putting it up for auction, I am too partial to dragon miniatures. If I had to pick from one miniature from the latest showcase, a particular technique. Oh yeah, this dragon, definitely the sketchbook. For the OSL, any of them with, like, the one Sorcerer with the spell effects happening, any of the miniatures with the really cool spell effects would be fantastic to play around with the OSL. For sure, without question. For the inks and washes painting techniques, let's see here. Who would be good for that one? Well, again, the spell effects would be great for those. But the Naiad would be good too. That's an interesting question. That's definitely an interesting question. I don't think we can do that. Fries. I personally can't. If you want to discuss in chat, that's fine, but I cannot say it out loud. Let's put it that way. Ooh. So now you see it's got this bluish tinge to it happening. Still working around. Again, I'm avoiding the belly area. I'm still trying to get to this other side. Break on through to the other side. Oh, shoot. Sorry to hear that you missed out on those minis. So again, just getting this blue through. Oh, good. We're doing beautifully on time. You'll also notice I am not going to take this onto the base. I'm going to save that for the sand, the dark sand that I'm going to be using on the belly area. So do not put the pale blue gray as a dry brush on your base. You don't want it going there. Well, it'd be preferable it doesn't go there. And it does come with time. Band of Badgers. It comes with time. Did y'all hear that? I might have a thunderstorm coming. Oh dear. That or something big is getting moved around the neighbors. That was loud, though. I'm trying to be very careful through here right now because I don't want to get this on the belly if I can help it. As you can see right now between, this is perfect. So between here and here, you see there's a difference in tone here. This has more of a blackish look to it where that has that blue peeking through. Which is exactly what you want to see. Now, of course, it's going to change in a minute when I get to the dark sand, but wanted to make sure you saw that as well. And again, I'm being a little bit more careful right now because I don't want to get too much of that blue where it ought not fully go. Just making sure I'm getting it where I do want it to go. And just float your brush across the top. Oh, yeah, I think I'm getting a thunderstorm. I did not know that was... Oh, my sky is yellow. Okay, everyone, cross your fingers that all stays good with power for me because I'm producing that stream at 3 and I really kind of need my power. Oh, please, weather gods, be nice, be kind. That was thunder. Well, okay then. All right, sweeping the tail. We're sweeping the tail. I am going to leave the bottom of the tail for the dark sand. Yeah, no, you know what? How about... Why is this not working for me? Twitch, I mean. We are going to ban. Bye! Bye! Say bye-bye, everyone. Say bye-bye, bot. Bye-bye, bot. We don't like your kind here. We don't need your kind. Your kind is neither required nor wanted. See ya! We'll swing that ban hammer, thank you very much. I'll deal with reporting in a little bit. Okay, we are so close with the blue on this one. The pale blue. Just a couple little areas, and then I want to get up here. The upper portion of the head. When I'm done with this stream, I am checking the weather for the next stream. I like everyone's like, bye bye bot. Bye. I want to get rid of you. That's what I wanted to do. Haha. Okay. There we go. So now we have this lovely hint of blue. And it's very subtle. And again, you can sort of see it playing across here. So there's that. And now what I want to do is I want to take the dark sand. I'm going to take this, play it through. This is the tough part. Play it through down the throat, down the belly, do my best between the legs, and underneath the tail. Okay, so that's where I'm going to move over to dark sand, which is it's a very pale yellowish tone, which is what I wanted, because if you look at the render above, you have this beautiful rich golden yellow happening on those areas, which is why I'm switching to the dark sand. I am also going to switch to a smaller brush. Don't bring me down, brush. And yeah, there is definitely a storm happening. Pardon the noise, folks. Actually, let me just put that in there since I'm going to switch to a different brush anyways. Everyone keeps asking me, these are usually my brushes of choice, quite frankly. I have thoroughly enjoyed them. in my collection. They actually hold up nicely for me. Okay, so taking out that dark sand, I will go back to the bigger brush for dark sand for the base, but because of where I am putting this on the mini itself, I am moving to a smaller. This is more your traditional dry brush. Oh my goodness, that's a very good question. Fry, I run so cold, it's not even funny. You may even notice sometimes that my hands will take on different tones, like my fingers will be white, my hands will be purple. Yeah, I have very cold hands. You might be getting weather effects in the background. I also make a point to wash my hands. I think I've said this in the past. I will actually wash my hands with dish soap before I start painting a miniature because it strips the oils from your hands. So just a little FYI. Okay, so right now I'm going in with dark sand. And again, I am not looking for a full color coverage on this one. I'm gonna let the ink and the washes do that work in the next stream next week. But I wanna start hinting to that a little bit more, which is why I am going in now and doing a dry brush with the dark sand. And you can see now it's taking that on. Wash your hands? Never. Ooh. Oh, Mother Nature, she's angry right now. If you hear screeching and howling, I promise, it's just, I call it the Banshee wind. I'm up on top of a mountain, so you will get this very high-pitched howling sound every so often when I get a bad storm. If you hear that in the background, I promised I haven't summoned anything that you know of. But yeah, I have a big thunderstorm coming through right now. Oh, weather, you're so funny. So right now I'm just being a little bit more careful and methodical. Same thing though. Removing the excess. Working this up and under. Floating it above the surface so those textures will come out, which you can now see on the throat. A V is anything but a Goliath. Oh dear God. Is anyone in the chat, has anyone in the chat actually seen me physically? Like, stature-wise? Yes, this fae prefers her mountaintops in the isolation. I mean, Forest Mountain, come on. It's a thing. And this one little part that is being stubbed... Hold on, I need to pull this out of frame. I am so sorry, but... being an interesting little crook of the neck. Alright, a little bit more than I wanted, but it still works. Okay, so got the throat in there. So see? Now I need to get to the belly and the tail. And then I'll do the base. PAX 2020. Here's, you know, I am fully vaccinated now. I'm happy to say that. Gotten both shots. And if they say I need one more or two more, or however many more, I'll get them. I'll do it. So we will see in terms of 2021 if there's anything in the pipeline. How am I going? This is always the fun part when you get to that point in the menu where you're like, I want to, but how do I? I gotta pull this out of frame again because I'm getting into awkward angles. Ooh. I am very tempted to turn up the gain on my microphone so you can hear all of this. It's angry outside right now. Ba-boom. Big bada-boom. I'm just giving this a touch of that dark sand. Through here. Also realizing I lost a little bit of sunlight that I had been using. Dang it. I will say, if you can ever have the option to paint in natural light, paint in natural light. Can you hear this? Hold on. Let me turn the music down. You hearing that? It's pretty intense right now. So, yeah. You're getting something of like an ASMR when I got it, because I jumped that up. Getting some sort of, oh, clarification. Okay, thank you. Was it 20, or is it 2019? 2019, wasn't it? Because I don't think 2020 happened. There we go. So now you can see there's a bit of color coming into play with these very pale pastels. Nature's Nap music. And I'm just going to quickly take my other bigger brush and use that on the base, again with the dark sand. But you can see how this dragon now has the colors hinted to it. Next week is where it's really going to start popping, and I'm excited for that part. I wasn't at Origins. Thank you, Calculus. Oh my gosh, thank you for that. That was actually very helpful. I mean, it doesn't have to be exact, but very, very darn close too, because I have to switch a whole bunch of things in production mode. All right, so now I'm gonna just take this, and I have just put the dark sand. So I'm just pretty much taking that and sweeping through on the base itself. Just to give that a warmer color against the cooler tones of the blue dragon. See? Y'all, I'm not kidding. I would probably, for some minis, I may even have painted and left it at this and done like quick little washes. If I want to go more of my sketchbook look. But I will complete, and I will show you the fun of adding different washes and inks to really make these pop. Okay, so there's that. Oh, definitely not an angry water elemental. Nope. Nope, not in the least. Okay, so I'm gonna let that do a quick little dry here, and I'm gonna go for my last dry brush. And this is where I'm gonna go for straight up white, because this is the last part of the technique at this point, because I do need to make sure that this part is done before we do any types of inks or washes next week. So then we met in 2019. Okay, very cool. Shannon, forgive me. I meet a good I meet a good number of people. If all goes black, then my house got zapped, y'all. Okay. It was 2017 for Origins. Oh, okay, cool. See? That's cool. Forgive me for not recalling that. My apologies. Okay, so Calculus heard that. All right, now I'm going to go in with straight up white. Be careful with your white. Handle with care. This is where you practically use barely any white on your brush. I'm going to make this very clear. This is not something where you load your brush up with a whole bunch of white. Thunderbolts of lightning. I'm not going to sing the rest because I don't want to get a copyright strike. So I'm going to pull a good chunk of this white off the brush. I'm back to the big brush. That's also important. Now, you saw me this whole time pulling across. Now what I'm going to do is pull from top to bottom. as best I can. Like this, with the white. And it is still going to be very light-handed. This is the only time you will see me change up the direction. And I'm going to make every effort to keep it running top to bottom across the mini. And I mean top to bottom, following the flow of the miniature. It's a little bit tricky here on the legs. So really, however you can best hit those points. But a light touch. Another one's coming, heads up. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anyone else care to add in their 2 cents? But let me show you here. You can see how now it's giving those scales that little bit of extra pop. And you can see how the muscles are getting that little bit of extra pop. It's not a whole bunch on my brush here that is doing this. It is a very scant amount of paint that is coming into play for this. Another one. Get ready for it. I just saw a huge flash. Trying to get a really good spot to better show you. See? Through here. Those edges are now popping out because of the white. The problem is I actually... See, here's the thing! I love this kind of weather, just like today of all days when I'm producing 2 streams. Please! Please, no! Oh, dear God. But yep, just be careful with the white. You don't want to inundate everything. Pull it from the top down. Like literally how it would pull down from the body. Snow! Oh, no. No snow. Oh, no to the snow. And this is important because this basically becomes your highlights. You'll see next week as to why. Now, I am cheating a little bit here just because of how this is such a deep inset. So you see me moving my brush slightly differently. But now I'm going to pull this down and through. When you have bigger expanses like the wings, I find it helps to sort of do a diagonally down as opposed to straight down because, again, you have that texture you don't want to get filled in. So this is my... Oh, that's going to be a big one. That was a big flash. If you saw the shaking, that was my camera shaking from the thunder. I swear that wasn't my shaking the table. Oh, law. So basically, it's just going through again with the wings because of the shape of them. It helps to pull out the diagonal, down on a diagonal, not straight across, but still keeping a downward motion. But you can see it's really popping out those higher points now. And I'm just going to sweep through this with the white, and then we're going to call it a day. And then next week we'll pick back up with this, and I will be able to do the staining with inks and washes, and well, stains if I have any. Let's see here. Pulling down. Still pulling down and around. Very light, very subtle. Really? You're interrupting me. Subtle. We're gonna need to have a conversation when we're done here, Weather. I'm also gonna do it on the base. Just a little bit of that white to pop it out more. And if you see there are areas you'd kind of like to build up even more, you can do that. You can go back in with even a lighter touch of white. Like I'm doing that right now on this leg. just want to get a little bit more going on the legs here because they have such a great texture to them. Okay, so here is the end result for this week. You can see they're the lighter points. The details are really popping out. And because I use those pastel tones, you're starting to get a hint of the colors. But what we're going to do next week is add in the stains and the washes so that it pops up to have the vivid colors that you see in the render above my head. So that is the plan for next week. All right, but here is the adult blue dragon from Pathfinder Battles, Deepcuts Wave 14, coming out May 12th at your local game store, my darlings. Remember to contact them. We'll finish it up next week, and you get to see how this looks in all of its different forms, so to speak. Thank you so much for joining me today. Don't forget that we have the Red Slod Paint Night Kit that is out right now also with your FLGS, and that we will be doing a live stream, painting stream with myself, Greg, and Shelly. We are doing that May 7th, so make sure you reach out and get that all done. Let me just flip up to, hold on, main screen, not the wait screen, main. So please make sure you go to your local game store, get your kit, and join us. If you have enjoyed yourselves, then by all means, please be sure to hit the like button over there on YouTube. Or if you are new here and you haven't yet, like, follow, subscribe, all that goodness. It would be very much appreciated. Thank you ever so much. I am going to be back on here. Here being YouTube, Twitch, as well as Facebook, WizKids Facebook, at 3 p.m. with Scott Porter. He has this fantastic event that is going to be happening in May, and he's going to be talking with us about it. So please come on over and check it out and hear what he has to say. I think it'll touch and ring true for many of you out there, even if you're not in the HeroClix world. And let me see here. So, and then after that, we're going to have some more fun showcasing some minis off throughout the next few weeks, as always. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to need to scoot. So I normally don't like to be so quick and so abbreviated, but thank you so much. You all were wonderful. The chat, as always, great tips, great interactions. Always appreciated it. We only had to say bye-bye to a bot. I mean, can't go wrong with that one. I will see you next week. Same time, same place. You can go away right now. And until then, I will see you in not even 2 hours. I'll see you soon if you come on back. And if not, I will see you next week. So be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. I'll see you all on the flip side. Until then, take care and bye-bye.